Hey guys, Stelter. Let's do another bit of error analysis. This game was sent in by Othoab. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. It's a very short game that only lasted 15 minutes, and the problem is an incoming helo rush. So this discussion or this video is all about how can you counter such a helo rush once you encounter it. Because some people will just try to rush around your flanks. If you're not paying attention, a helo rush like that can be absolutely devastating. Now, a couple of questions that he asked me and that I'm going to ask you. Is there anything I can do to save the game? And that is going to be something that we can discuss probably afterwards, after we see what happened. Could I prevent this in the first place? Preventing helo rushes is not easy. You need to have the right units, the right stuff. And it's not always, especially on a larger map like this, easy to secure every flank. How were my defensive positions? Could I do better? We're going to see that in a bit. And is my deck okay for that type of game? He was using a East Germany motorized deck. Now an East German motorized deck is something that I wouldn't bring to this map. This map, especially once you're doing it in a 2v2, will suffer if you're using solely a motorized deck. Motorized decks, as far as I'm concerned, are ideal once you're in a town-heavy map. Something like Onsen Harbor, maybe even a 10v10 where you take the middle. That is where these motorized decks really shine. Or if you have a map where you have a lot of terrain and forest cover. That is also going to be ideal. But on a big map like this, where you're just doing a 2v2, you're going to need to deploy so many different units that a motorized deck, especially if it's one country only, is just not going to be able to fill the gaps. So for a start, that's something I would change in your strategy. Now as far as points go, they seem to have a lot of points, judging by the amount of units that he has. And over here on the right flank, this is a pretty damn light setup. They got a bit of AA units here, Tunguska in the woods, Mi-25, T-80U. Hang on, these are two different nations. This might be a North Korean USSR coalition. Yeah, that's a North Korean FOB. He's not moving out, he only is moving out with one helicopter, so right from the get-go, this is probably an inexperienced player. If you are playing with an inexperienced player, it's very important to see who you're going up against. If you're going up against people with a 60 to 80% win rate or higher, and you're not that experienced at the game, you are going to have a bad time. And everything about this guy is telling me he's not very experienced, because he's rushing 3 recon units over the middle of the road, so he right-clicked, not even fast-moved, and put those guys probably in there. The thing that you really want to do is push up into Dmitry or center, if you can get that far. Now, Othoab seems to have the right idea. He's capturing Boris with a CV. He's moving a lot of support units, a lot of AA here. He has helos initially holding Fedor to make sure nothing else can actually enter there. He even brought a 815 resupply vehicle. I'm not sure you need that just yet. I think you could have done without that. As far as where his vehicles are going, they seem to be going towards the middle. He possibly moved them here initially, and only to start distributing the infantry later. But I'm very worried about this flank on Dmitry. Now he has AA infantry in here, Igla 1s, leichte Schützen, 2 resupply vehicles. Othoab, don't park those too close to each other, because if one's going to blow up, you got a good chance that the other one's going to go as well. Recon infantry to the left, HGM infantry towards that building right there to lock down that bridge, so he's doing a good job here. Now where the hell's this BRDM going? If you park that BRDM there, that's perfectly fine. And everything else has started moving, but it's again not fast moving, just moving. Now I'm going to switch it to neutral to see what exactly is going on. I'm not seeing any huge helo advances yet, but they do have some, I'm going to say secondary helicopters here, because I wouldn't really call a bushranger a good attack helicopter. You can see that Blue 4 has solid control over this town here, except for AA. They are bringing in tractor Piers though, and they got their TACOM, or their attack HQ command infantry. Now let's look at his defensive setup here. He has AA units on the left without too much recon. I would park those helos somewhere over there. The problem is with the motorized deck you don't get any spare helicopters. And by spare I mean you don't get any transport helos that you can then use to send over to areas where you just need a bit of cover. A sort of tripwire defense helo. And again, the helo doesn't really need any armaments. It just has to be there as a deterrent, or so that you can spot whatever's going to come in. Now he has grenzers in here, but they are inside the forest and they're in too deep. They cannot spot anything. The concours over here, again too deep into the forest, but see, the grenzers are still moving about. I would not keep these SPWs out here. As far as recon goes over here, he has again grenzers moving up, leichte schützen, which is an interesting unit here. I would normally just park a couple of tanks and fire support vehicles to lock down that bridge. But leichte schützen could work until you come up against a larger horde of tanks. In that case, they're going to die right quick. Tunchas are really close to the front line. Be careful with that. These things have a range of 7.5 kilometers and then some. So, personally, I would keep them somewhere back there, behind the forest, where they can still provide fire support. Now, Firestar or Firster is pushing it with an Mi-25, encountering all the infantry there. But so far, I'm not seeing any of the helo rushing that he mentioned. This is something that I was waiting for, really, a seed plane. Because I think that all of these AA units, and they're mostly radar guided, are active. And the Wild Weasel seems to agree with that. Lost one AA unit there. Fortunately, these things aren't terribly expensive at 50 points. I managed to damage the Wild Weasel so that thing won't be coming back in a hurry. Oh god, look at that. F-111 is going to completely wipe out anything that they have there. Yep, so much for the recon infantry. Now, I cannot really blame Firstar for this, because I think he just got the game. There was a sale on this last couple of days, and that means an influx of new players. For new players, this game can be confusing as hell. So, I'm not going to go too harsh on Firstar, because I think it might actually be one of his first games. Now Blue 4 has the right idea over here on the left flank. They got a recon helicopter, no armament. They could have moved those Black Hawks if they wanted to again to that flank. And with that you have a bit of a helo tripwire defense. Now I'm seeing more helos moving about here, bushrangers. Try and make sure that you have some infantry or some AA units or recon, whatever you want, in this tree line. Because more often than not, you will see people trying to flank around, especially if you're dealing with more experienced players. I, for one, always try to get a recon helicopter with infantry to about there, or on this side, drop off the recon infantry, which is usually going to be something like a sniper team. And I'll try walking those all the way over towards this tree line or this tree line over here, where I can start spotting into Anna. You can see that the lack of recon is going to get them into trouble, because these bushrangers, I think they haven't been spotted yet. No, they don't know that they're there. Fortunately, those things aren't terribly heavily armed, but you don't need that if you only want to take out a UAZ. Judging by the number of units that Othoab has out here, compared to the number of units that Firstar has in here, I think that he has a ton of points sitting in reserve. You can see that Othoab might be trying to help here. Bring a bit of resupply, recon capability in. I think that UAZ stopped blinking for just a few seconds. Yeah, they might have a clue where it is. Now they finally see the bushrangers. And mind you, these things are not expensive. These are just 45-point units. And they have now spotted the CV. End of the CV. Leaves Anna completely open, and they can just continue their run and try to push into Boris. You can see that Othoab is moving his CV, trying to go right back. This is the right call and the wrong call at the same time. It's the right thing to do because you want to get Anna under your control as quickly as possible. But it's the wrong thing to do because you haven't sent any units back. And with that, you don't know if there is still an attacking force. But considering that 2 or 4 helos just took out a command vehicle, immediately moving the other one might not be the best opportunity. At the same time, it is going to be just a matter of seconds before the second UAZ is going to get killed off. Because those helos were going to flank around anyway. That's what any regular player would have done, because this is normal position for another CV. So that left them very, very poorly defended in Anna and Boris. And at this stage the game is pretty much over. Finally scored another unit. It was a 100-point Wild Weasel that went down, but the other one made it out alive. You can see the helos are back from Lord Castor, now sniping out a BTR-80 here. And they could, if they wanted to, land here. I think that's what they might be doing. If they do that, they're going to capture... Yep, there you go. They're going to capture the FOB and get themselves resupplied. Okay, question for you guys, as the watchers or the viewers of this video. Is there anything at this stage that Othoab could be doing to save the game? What could he have done with his units? Just think about that. He has a lot of infantry. They are all motorized. He has no airborne units, except for those DHSs. Other than that, their closest CV is over here, and they still have 4 attacking helicopters, which are fully resupplied in Anna. What can you do, if anything, at this stage? And maybe the answer is nothing. If it was up to me, I'd be pretty much panicking, because there's not that much you can do. You can send back some of your frontline units, but that will leave your front lines weaker. And leaving your front lines weaker is going to get you in trouble eventually, later on. Other things he could have tried to do is set up a quick reaction force somewhere, or try to have prevented it in the first place by having a bit of recon and AA infantry around. Because while it's not always possible, it is likely that people will start trying to probe around your flanks and try to punch a hole in them somewhere. Recon infantry over here could have also prevented the issue, as they would have spotted the helos quite early on, and then you could have brought in AA infantry or AA units afterwards. But to be fair, he is basically fighting a 2v1, because he has to carry first star as a very new player. So I believe that answers this first question. Could I do anything to save the game? Not really. Not at this stage, without sending back a lot of expensive units. This, by the way, is terrible play by the 64 BVIs, or BVIs. Don't send them up without reconnaissance. Could I have prevented this in the first place? Yes, to some extent. Yes, you could have prevented it by putting a bit of reconnaissance infantry around here, maybe around there, and possibly even an AA unit if you can spare it somewhere just in Anna. It is not the ideal solution, but it works. How were my defensive positions is the next question, so let's look at that. For the veterans of this game, this might be terribly boring, but for newer players, this is a really important element of how to improve their game. So I'm sorry if I'm boring you with this, but I also believe in helping out the newer players, so that we can keep this community going. Now, let's see. If I were to attack from this bridge, my tanks would get attacked by Konkurs and leichte Schützen. If I were to attack with motorized units, same thing. If I were to attack with helicopters, I would get nailed by Iglas. 2 teams there, another one there. This one's not in cover. Make sure you get your infantry in cover, whether it's a tree line, a building, or whatever. These FLAs are effective together. We saw that. They shot down an AA seaplane, or not an AA seaplane, they just shot down a seed, one of those F4s. But I would space them out a little bit. I would put one there and one over there as a sort of larger gap defense here. So I think that this position is pretty secure. If I were to smoke this area, it would still be hard for me to knock out all of those leichte Schützen, the Konkurs, as well as having to deal with all of those transports. And they might only have 1 armor penetration, but if they all light up, and if they all start hammering your transports or your infantry units or your tanks even at close range, you're going to have a bad time. So I think that this flank is pretty secure, especially for motorized deck. The other side here, Konkurs team, this one's easily knocked out. Just 1 or 2 rounds, and personally, if I were to attack here, I would first either smoke the area around this tree line, or I would go for a standard mortar attack run. So attacking everything in here with mortars, then putting up a smoke screen, and then trying to push across the bridge. If I would do that, the Konkurs would be dead, the Grenzer would be dead. You would still have the leichte Schützen here, which would be pretty annoying, but they couldn't see anything. So I could push in my own infantry and try to clear these guys out. An air attack in this region would be more difficult, because he still has the SFLs, he still has quite a few Igla teams around here, so that would be more difficult. Let's see, around the flank here, as mentioned, this area is wide open, so he wouldn't even, I don't think, yeah, he can see the daps over here with the Grenzers, but if I were to fly around here with helos, or for example do a siege run combined with a bombing run, trying to knock out everything in this forest, or even just mortar it, that would be enough, just to knock out the Grenzers. Then I could fly around with helos and do the same thing to Anna from the other flank. So instead of going around there, you'd go around the water flank, the waterfront, and then push into Anna. So as far as his defensive lines go, I think they're okay. I don't know if you get even something that resembles a tank if you're using an East German motorized deck. If you do, just get some of those. The reason I'm saying that is because all ATGMs will run out of ammo, and especially if you are going to receive a push here, it's going to be a wave. It's going to be tanks, it's going to be infantry transports, it's going to be fire support vehicles. These Konkurs carry 12 missiles, and they have an accuracy of about 45%, which means that out of those 12 missiles you're going to be lucky if you hit 4, especially considering battlefield conditions with this bridge. As something is moving towards the bridge, your ATGM will fire at it. It will then lose sight of it as the unit crosses over the bridge. The ATGM will fire another time and maybe hit the unit on the bridge or after it. So you're not going to get that much effective use out of these. Then you got the leichte Schützen, which carry 18 of those missiles, but they only have a penetration of 15, and that is going to be something that is not going to be that damaging to any tanks, let alone infantry transports. Infantry transports would get hit, they would die instantly, but again, the leichte Schützen only have 45% accuracy, like their Konkurs buddies. And even if they carry 18 missiles, that may get you 8 kills if you're lucky, if you're only going for light targets. And then you have a lot of infantry out in the open, without really any good use or any good vehicles to neutralize that. So I would put some sort of fire support vehicle around here, or even a light tank, that would work. And over here, of course, this is terrible. He's attacking with 2 very expensive T-80Us without recon. He has a command vehicle that's sitting right there in the open. Tunguska sitting out in the open with both the AA guns and the missiles active. And we got 2 books sitting out there in the open, really easy targeting. No supply vehicle anywhere to be seen, and no recon. So I'm thinking that First Star has very, very little experience with the game. And then for the final question that he asked, I already went over that. Is my deck okay for this type of map and this type of game? Not really. The motorized decks, as mentioned, aren't ideal for this situation. It is better to try and get a 2v2 general deck, so an East German general deck would do. If you're a newer player, you could go with one nation, but a coalition is going to give you more advantages. What the fuck? Okay, he's pushing in with a BRDM. That's interesting. And the CV that was in here probably also got killed off, so they only got one UAZ left. Anyway, go for a standard deck or a coalition standard deck. Personalized or specialized decks like a motorized deck, armored deck, airborne deck, stuff like that. I would only really recommend that if you have more experience with the game, so that you know exactly what you can expect and where and how to counter it. And if you're dealing or if you're operating inside a larger team. And I mean team in the sense of TeamSpeak coordinated team. If I'm playing on the stream, and I'm doing that with Swiss and Follow and XDU, I'm going to say, okay guys, I'm going to use an airborne deck, I'm going to support you with air superiority fighters, bombers, etc. In a 2v2 you just cannot do that. You need all the available units to hold a line, especially if the line is as big as this one. Now, First Star managed to lose all of his units, so it's only Othoab here. And I think that they may have flown ACV around. Yep, there it is. They've flown a TACCOM around, or a TAC HQ. And they have now captured this area. There's even a second one on the way. So this game's just done. Anyway, bit of a irregular video. I hope you don't mind me reviewing the gameplay of less experienced players. I still think it's something that's really important to do. It's really easy to start flaming newer players and say, I don't want to play with these noobs, they're just going to wreck my win rate, etc, etc. Give them a chance. We were all beginners at some stage, even if you may not want to admit it. When I was starting out with this game, I did a 1v1 in Airland Battle against an easy AI, and I got my ass handed to me. Only after a lot of improvement, watching replays, watching gameplays on YouTube, I improved. And especially error analyses like these help you out a lot. Now, I won't be doing a ton of these. I'm not going to put up a new one every day, because that would just be terribly boring to watch. But I hope that you can also provide some support or supporting comments down below to help out these new guys. You give them a bit of faith in themselves, because as a new player this thing is hard to get into. I remember that, I hope you do too, and that together we can all create a better community. Okay, enough with the preaching and the speeching. Let's finish this game off. Let's see what the stats are at the end, if any. No, just the end of the replays. Looks like we're not even going to see the result screen. Possibly because he surrendered. That might be it. Anyway, again, I hope you don't mind this video. If you enjoyed it and if you got something out of it, please hit the like button. If you have any questions or any suggestions for Othoab on how to improve his game further, let me know in the comments, and he will probably be watching this video and looking at all the tips that you guys can give him. So thanks in advance for your help. Looking forward to seeing you in the next video.